Namaste, beautiful yogis. Oftentimes when you do my classes, you will hear me say tuck your tailbone under or square your hips or level your hips, and I keep getting the question, what does that mean? Let's start with tuck your tailbone under. If you are, let's take lunge pose. Here you're gonna press the back heel away from you, and you're gonna have your hips level, so they're gonna be equal distance from the floor. So they're gonna be equal distance from the floor. From here, if your tailbone is not tucked under, your belly will pop out and your butt will just stick back. Basically, you're losing the connection with your core. You want to extend your tailbone down, so if you put your hand on your tailbone and press your tailbone down and bring your belly in, this is what tucking the tailbone under means. And you're gonna feel this action. You're gonna feel this action into your hip flexor. You can't effectively stretch your hip flexor if you're not able to tuck your tailbone under. How do we square the hips in pigeon pose? We're gonna be in pigeon, and if you bring your hands on your hip bones, they're gonna be equal distance from the floor. If you wanna be particular and take a ruler, you can do that, but you can usually tell pretty well where your hips are in space, and it's actually better for you to learn to have the awareness of where your body parts are in space by just feeling them and looking at back at yourself or looking in a mirror. So if you bring your hands on your hip bones, they're equal distance from the floor. If you're sitting on the outer side of your right hip, rolling here, then your left hip would lift up, right hip would lower down, and they're not even, and you're not effectively stretching your hips. You're misaligning your tailbone overall. Try not to do that. Try always to align properly. And to square our hips, say in warrior three, we're gonna come onto the right leg, take the left leg back. If our hips are not square, we're just gonna look something like this. To square them, you're gonna take the outer edge of your left hip and roll it down. Basically, you will roll down here and extend through the toes or flex the toes and press the heel away from you. Have all 5 toes extending down. In the one place where most of us will misalign our hips will be extended side stretch. So if we come here, we're going to square the hips completely. They're really facing the wall in front of you, so they're equal distance from the wall, they're equal distance from the floor. Slightly extending the tailbone down. When you begin to lower down, you will actually stretch your hamstrings much more effectively if your hips are square. If they're not square, you will either come this way or you can roll this way. So try to see if your tailbone is aligning with your spine here, and keep your right hip back, left hip rolling forward. Same alignment applies for revolving triangle pose and splits. Splits is the most common pose in which you will see people actually not squaring the hips. They would lift here and open this side, which is misaligning the tailbone again, and overall you're not getting into splits. You're better off actually keeping the hips square and staying off the floor, maybe bringing a block underneath your legs rather than staying here, just you're not getting deep enough into your hip flexor and you're misaligning the pose in order to look like it splits. Let me know if you have any questions. Namaste.